Welcome in, everybody, to a new edition of Warm Weather Fans, the Sunbelt Podcast. My name is Brian Stone, joined this week by Louisiana superfan Matt Miguez. Zeke Palermo is off doing work stuff, which sucks for him because it's 2 days to Christmas. And Matt, you and I are just chilling, trying to watch some of this Myrtle Beach Bowl that currently Coastal Carolina is falling on their face. But other than that, how's it going?
Man, it's good. I am off of work until January the 3rd. Um, and looking forward to spending some time with family, obviously with the Christmas holidays and the New Year holiday. And watching a ton of good football. But yeah, no, watching Coastal Carolina as we speak right now. They just started the third quarter, and it is not pretty if you're a Chanticleers fan.
Yeah. So let's start with the James Madison game from Wednesday, and then we can work up to what has been a very underwhelming Coastal Carolina outing so far. So James Madison, I I actually messed this up because I thought Alonzo Barnett was going to play in this game, and I have for a few weeks now advocated for having pregame injury reports the way that you would practice reports, things like that, the way that you would like an NFL team franchise league. So Alonzo Barnett does not end up playing. Uh, and then on the other side, Caden Veltkamp, the quarterback at Western Kentucky, is in the transfer portal, but ends up playing anyway. But the result was roughly the same, which is James Madison outclassed a Western Kentucky team that, I mean, frankly, in the Conference USA title game against Jacksonville State, they have a pretty soft front seven. Let's put that nicely. You can run on them as Jacksonville State illustrated as George Petaway, and all of the other guys, J.C. Evans, the runners for JMU showed. Western Kentucky right now, to me, seems like, and I know this is ironic, but they seem like a mirror image to the Sun Belt of what Georgia Southern is, which is throw the ball a ton, underwhelming defense, teams can run on you, and frankly, if we finish with the same record. So I'm just like, if Georgia Southern was in Conference USA, they would have been the ones getting blown out probably by Jacksonville State in the title game.
Yeah, I mean, look, the trajectories are certainly similar, right? I think the defenses are both, like you said, very susceptible to the run game. And look, I think that Western Kentucky showed that on Wednesday night, last Wednesday night, when George Petaway had averaged 7 yards a carry, um, and was able to go over the century mark. Now, look, Veltkamp played pretty well, did his part to try to keep Western in it. The problem was that they got outscored 20-3 in the second half. Because I mean, look at halftime, I was like, okay, Western Kentucky might be on their way to something here, and then they fell flat in the second half. So I'm not sure what was said in the locker room at James Madison at halftime, and what was not said in the locker room for Western Kentucky at halftime. But it was definitely a tale of two halves. But look, credit to James Madison for making halftime adjustments and responding, and bringing a bowl win back to the Sun Belt Conference.
Yeah, and I thought they called a pretty conservative game overall. But if you don't have Alonzo Barnett, who's been your starter all year, and you're starting, some combo of Billy Atkins and J.C. Evans coming in and running kind of like wildcat sets, things like that. I think it was a great win for JMU just based on who was available, who they had, things like that, because this could have easily went the way that like the Coastal game that's on right now went, where it's like, we don't have our two quarterbacks. Let's just play. To say that game is being called safely is quite an understatement. They are almost playing to like not get injured, which is
Right.
fine, but also you're not playing to win. I'm sorry. Like that's just the way
Yeah.
it is. But JMU showed up. they wanted to win this game. They wanted to beat Western Kentucky. Uh, I made the comment about Western Kentucky and Georgia Southern being on the same trajectory. I mean, obviously their head coaches are brothers, so there might be something in the gene pool. I don't know if not having a good defense is genetic, but they are trying their hardest to make it in the DNA strand. But yeah, Western Kentucky couldn't run the ball as has been the case with a lot of air raid teams. And JMU frankly ran it right down their throat, and they had absolutely no response. I mean, they played good in the first half, and then the second half, like you said, JMU adjusted defensively. Uh, but your ceiling is always going to be limited when you are a one-dimensional football team like Western Kentucky, like Georgia Southern, whoever you want to talk about. The teams that can only do one thing well offensively, there's always, unless you have a guy that should be in the running for the Heisman, which is never going to happen at the group of 5 level, there's a hard cap, a hard ceiling on your team,
For
because
sure.
the second things don't go perfectly, you can't default back to, oh, well, let's just go back to establish the run. Well, now
Right.
you can't, because you're in quicksand basically, and you're just trying to fight your way back out. So I thought Veltkamp played pretty well, considering their leading rusher in this game was averaging 3.4 yards a carry, the Hilltoppers. But yeah, JMU, they went to the drawing board. They saw what Western Kentucky was bad at, which is defending the run. And this was I think it was a styles make fight, if you want to use like MMA lingo, matchup where it's like JMU can run the football as much as they want, and Western Kentucky is just trying to throw themselves out of a hole. And frankly, you kind of see where that gets you, which is, you can get to the Coosa Conference Championship, and you really haven't been all that competitive the last 2 games. Between the championship game and this one, you played basically one half of football. So I don't know. Good luck to Tyson Helton moving forward. I think Chesney has them on a good track, JMU. I think they just need to work on consistency, week to week specifically, because I think this team has a pretty high ceiling, but
Yeah.
frankly, you just never know what kind of floor you're getting from them on a weekly
You
basis.
know, I'm looking back at Western Kentucky season, and I think where things kind of flipped for them was when they lost to Louisiana Tech. I mean, you're sitting at 7-2. You host Louisiana Tech, who hasn't been good for several years. And you lose 12-7 in a game that you never really showed up in. And
Mm-hmm.
from there on, you lose after that loss. You lose to Liberty, who wasn't great this year. They weren't awful, but they certainly weren't great.
They had a good
Um,
quarterback.
and then you have the split with Jacksonville State, where you beat them by 2 and then get crushed in the championship game. And so I think that it's the perfect story of that one bad loss can derail your entire season.
Right.
Because that's exactly what happened with Western Kentucky.
So JMU's still got a fairly young team. Where do you kind of there's a lot that needs to play out before, we kick off next September, late August. I don't
Yeah.
really know when everybody's going to kick off yet. What Where are you at with this first season of Bob Chesney? I was fairly impressed. I know that a lot of JMU fans, they have really high expectations for their football team, and it's hard to argue with those given how the Signetti years and things like that went, and the track record before that. But I think this was as good as they could have probably hoped for, considering how much they lost after last season with the coach leaving and all the players and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, they finished 9-4. Um, that's a huge, first step for Bob Chesney, right? Obviously, he had a ton of pieces to build off of that stayed behind from the Kurt Signetti led teams. But look, at the end of the day, as a first year head coach at this level, you just need a building block. And I think that this was a perfect building block for Bob Chesney. This shows recruits that James Madison is capable of still winning at a high level in the Sun Belt Conference. And I think that they'll attack the portal well. They'll attack recruiting, and he's got plenty to build on in Harrisonburg. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, like I said, I think the one area I don't know how I guess just reps and things like that, but they just have to be more consistent on a weekly basis. Like Alonzo Barnett showed obviously in the North Carolina game kind of where his ceiling is, but frankly, I watched them play Georgia Southern really closely. Obviously, there didn't seem to be a steady floor of like, we may not be playing at our best this week, but we're at least going to get this. And frankly, he looked totally lost in that game against what
Yep.
really turned out to be a Georgia Southern defense that improved once they got into conference play. But if you just look at kind of overall statistics, I mean, anytime Ashton Janty runs for almost 300 yards on you, it's going to look ugly at the end of the season. But it seems a little concerning. Now, hopefully he develops that floor as he gets older and has more in-game experience, because he's basically got one season of it, having sat behind McLeod all year last year.
Correct.
But yeah, I think there's something really solid to build off of. The offensive coordinator Kennedy, that people were really down on, especially after the Marshall and Georgia Southern games. Maybe he spends some time in the lab this summer and figures some things out, especially with their offensive line being kind of inconsistent as well.
Right.
Yeah, I think the name of the game is just trying to hit same things every single week,
For sure.
and just trying to go back to the drawing board. But like you said, James Madison finishes this season 9-4. Western Kentucky drops to 8-6 as we close out their seasons.
Brian,
right.
Look, I don't mean to cut you off, but little bit of some Sunbelt breaking news here. Pete Thamel reported about 40 minutes ago that Louisiana head coach Michael Desormeaux signed a 5-year extension. He just got out of a media availability previewing the bowl game, where he did confirm that he has in fact signed a 5-year extension. So he will be the head coach for the Louisiana Raging Cajuns through 2029.
Presumably.
Yeah. Well, for now.
As long as an SEC or Big Ten school doesn't, or ACC school don't come calling.
Look, I mean, yeah, there's certain jobs that I think anybody would leave for, right? But Michael Desormeaux grew up, 20 minutes outside of Lafayette, went to UL. Like, I think this was his dream job. Now, I agree with you. There's some schools that he would leave for. I think anybody would. But I've got it's going to take quite a lot to get him out of Lafayette, Louisiana.
I honestly, all of the things that you laid out, I feel like are the exact same things that went for Scott Satterfield at App. Like, everybody was like, App's got their coach for the next 20 years. And it's like, wins a couple of Sunbelt championships, looks around, kind of sees like, hey, there's a real ceiling. Obviously he couldn't have seen the 12-team playoff coming. Sees, hey, there's like a real ceiling on this. Gets an offer from Louisville. App State alum is now coaching at Cincinnati, and frankly not doing that good of a job. So he might be available here in the coming months. But if things keep up the way they are. All right. So I'll go ahead and speak on this. So what was it? Thursday? Yeah, Thursday night, Georgia Southern took on Sam Houston in New Orleans. They lose 31-26. Frankly, the story of the show is JC French was absolutely terrible. And but here's the thing. Last week you asked me on this podcast, you said, why would you want Caden Veltkamp? You have JC French. And I was like, hey, Matt.
I did.
Because JC French threw 4 interceptions in a bowl game, including a pick 6 on his first pass attempt. That basically set the tone for the game because they didn't look good. Helton does this thing every year. Anytime he gets time off, he gets worse rather than better. Like, you would think, hey, this guy's got more time to prepare for an opponent. Nope. That does not go for him. That is the exact opposite. He spends his time playing video games or whatever he does with his spare time on the boat. as Sean Elliott once said. I don't know, again, if this is something like in his DNA that he just like he can't keep it together for a full season. We've seen now his teams kind of collapse at the end of the season. I know he beat App and he got some wins in November, but like he always has this in his bag, and you never know when your team's going to totally implode. And for that reason, given that their conference schedule next year, they play at App, at JMU, at Marshall. Like they play all of these schools on the road next year, and for that reason, I don't have high expectations for them heading into next year, especially because I know that deep down Helton is either too dumb or too loyal to bench a guy no matter how many interceptions he throws.
Yep.
So I just can't put any. The second that the Helton defenders start to kind of descend on the people that are down on him, he turns in a game like this, and then they kind of recede back into the bushes like Homer Simpson in that gif. So I just I don't even know what to make of him anymore. Like he's good when the entire conference is down, but when it's competitive, he's like hanging on to 6-6 by a thread. So that's just sort of where I'm at with it.
Look, I got to give credit to Sam Houston. Sometimes when your coach leaves before a bowl game, it can be, kind of a detriment. But they didn't let it be that. They got 21 points in the first half. Really jumped out to a nice lead. Georgia Southern made a little bit of a comeback in the second half, outscoring Sam Houston 16-10. But at that point, it was too little, too late. Like you said, J.C. French throws 4 interceptions, gives the Sam Houston offense 4 extra opportunities to make something happen, and obviously they took advantage of it. I don't think that this is a bad season for Georgia Southern. Obviously 8-5, they finished second in the Sun Belt East. There's definitely something to build on here. But J.C. French having a track record of disappearing in big moments is something that Clay Helton's going to have to try to fix this offseason.
I was thinking about this when we were kind of setting up to record here. I hate to say this, but with like the real life stuff that I've got going on here soon, aka, I have a 4-year-old, I have another kid on the way in March. I'm gonna be honest, man. If Helton is just like French is my quarterback next year, barring him physically not being able to play, I don't know how much time I can dedicate to watching this team. Honestly, like it's not like I don't want to, but it's also like if he doesn't want to be great, like he doesn't want to have a really good team, like how can I look and
Yeah.
go, no, this team needs to have 4 hours of my undivided attention every Saturday. I just can't. So again, if he wants to actually compete and try to put together like a winning team, that's great. I'll be there for it. But if this is like the Davis Brin experience where it's like he could throw a million picks and I won't sit him, cool, man. Y'all have fun with that. Like I'll check back in 26 to see if y'all get serious again, because it's not even, like I said, it's not a bandwagoning thing of like I just jumped off the bandwagon. It's just like I'm not gonna have the time to watch every snap of 12 games next year. If these are the types of performances we're getting out of JC French and he's going to play all season, I don't know how much longer I can do it, honestly, man.
That's interesting. And look, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I mean, his numbers to finish the year weren't great. 17-11 in touchdown interception ratio department, not even a 2-1. Finished 83rd in the country in QBR. I
Can I
just I question who else, who's going to
can I
play quarterback.
relate can I relate this to what Marshall did this year and just kind of show the contrast between Helton and Marshall's head coach and quarterback situation, Charles Huff and all that. The Marshall Georgia Southern game was like two ships passing in the night, where both were kind of doing the same quarterback situation of we have a really underwhelming pocket oriented quarterback, and we have a really exciting kind of improviser scrambler type on the bench that we refuse to play for reasons that are unclear to anyone else. And here's the difference between the two coaches. Charles Huff looked at that game and took away from it. We lost, but Braylon Braxton was more dynamic. Therefore, he deserved to play and kind of carry us into the next games. And you saw how that played out. I'm not saying it would have went the exact same way with Dexter Williams at Georgia Southern. I'm just saying it couldn't have been much worse than what we got from JC French at the end of the season. So we have a 4-star quarterback coming in, according to 24/7 Sports, which we know is everybody's Bible for recruiting. We have a 4-star quarterback athlete combo coming in named Weston Bryan. We have another quarterback commit coming in who's a 3-star, and we had a guy who's I think going to be a sophomore, redshirt sophomore named Tyler Budge. If we don't have an open quarterback competition and French just gets handed the job, like Bryn or one of the transfer guys that we've had that have come in have, yeah, I don't know how much time I can't make 4 hours every Saturday. I just can't, because again, if this team is just a vehicle for JC French to get good tape, cool, man. Like go do that somewhere else. Like you could go to East Carolina or somewhere and do that, like, or wherever. But yeah, I mean, again, 4 interceptions, one touchdown. He looked awful. The team defensively, they played pretty well, all things considered. They only allowed 267 yards of offense to Sam Houston. Sam Houston's vaunted rushing attack, which had 26 yards on 10 carries, their leading rusher, Ducker. I don't know, man. They got torn up by a guy through the air that they had like a bottom 20 passing offense in the country, and they still got torn up through the air. So yeah, we'll see where we're at heading into next year. But Sam Houston ends their season 10-3 with a bowl win. Georgia Southern drops to 8-5 as their season comes to a close. All right. There is a game on right now. There's not a lot to talk about from the actual analysis perspective. Coastal Carolina is currently down 27-0 with 6:37 left in the third quarter. Matt, obviously we haven't gotten to the end of this game, so barring an insane comeback, we're probably going to be dead on this one. Everybody for Coastal was really hyping up this Tad Hudson guy, and frankly, Tim Beck is calling plays like he's afraid for his safety. I don't know if you thought that when you were watching it.
Oh yeah.
They're calling it as if there's like a 7-year-old playing quarterback for them, and they're like,
It is.
"Please just don't hurt him." And I'm just like, "What are we doing? Are you trying to win, or are you trying to cover the spread?"
Yeah, I mean, it has been uber conservative, which is why they haven't put a single point on the board in 40 minutes. Currently down 27-0 with 6:20 to go in the third quarter. Yeah, I mean, they've just looked super flat. What happens when you're playing a quarterback that has never played before, right? Vasco enters the portal. Noah Kim enters the portal. Like, you're playing your third string quarterback in a bowl game. He's never played before. It goes right back to when Louisiana had to play Daniel Beal in the Sun Belt Championship game. Like, the first college snap the kid takes, other than one drive in a blowout situation, was, hey, it's 4th and 2. Figure out a way to convert it. Like, that's not conducive. Yeah. And so, yeah, look, it's just the fact that, you had guys, it's an indication on why the transfer portal needs to be changed. This window of when guys have to jump in is ridiculous. Let guys play their bowl game before they have to make the decision on if they're jumping into the portal or not. Like, it's just the fact that you have teams in the college football playoff having guys enter the portal because if I don't do it now, I won't be able to, is ridiculous. And this is another perfect example of that. And so, look, I mean, credit to UTSA, they're going to get a bowl win, but Coastal Carolina is just a shell of themselves today.
Well, I asked this question when we were picking this game, and I think we all unanimously picked UTSA to not only win but cover the 6.5. I believe the spread was going into this one. Uh, we asked this last week. What is this roster management by Tim Beck? Like Vasco and Kim, frankly, neither one of them were very good. So why was he riding them literally until the last game of the season and not giving Tad Hudson some run during the year? Like I don't understand. Like Vasco had a couple of games that were frankly embarrassing. And like there were many ample opportunities to get Hudson some playing time so he didn't look like this in the bowl game, or you weren't afraid to actually call plays for him to execute. Um, like that goal line stand that they went forward on fourth right before halftime was embarrassing, frankly, of a play call. Like you don't believe in your quarterback enough to even put the ball in his hands and would rather snap it to the halfback and have him run like a halfback rollout pass thing, and he didn't even like try to, dude. Braden Bennett, I'm sorry, I know you're not like a quarterback at heart. If it's fourth and goal, you just got to put the ball up, dude. If it gets picked at that point, like the worst thing that happens is they take over 12 yards further forward. Like
Yep.
what are we doing? Like this is like the most like Pop Warner offense I think I've seen in a minute. So I I
100%.
truly don't even understand what they're trying to accomplish. Like I think our schemes when I was in middle school playing football were more complicated than what they're running today.
Yeah, it's very simplified, which I somewhat get because again, it's a quarterback that hasn't played, but it's a little too simplified for a college football bowl game.
It's too simplified for a game where you're down 4 scores.
Yeah.
Like what I don't, again, I asked this on our Twitter account, at Warm Weather Fans on X.
Go
Are you
follow
trying to
us.
win? Yeah, go follow us. Are you trying to win or are you trying to cover the spread? Because right now you're accomplishing neither of those goals. So if you're just trying to kind of collect your bonus for making a bowl game and skedaddling, like fine,
Yeah, I mean, good for you, I guess.
dude, chuck it deep. Who
Right.
cares? You've got nothing to
Yep,
lose. So
for
unless
sure.
Tim Beck is holding on to a Coastal Carolina plus 35 ticket that he needs to cash, like I don't understand what's going on here.
Ooh, that would be unfortunate. Because that would end up with him being fired. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I see your point. Again, just uber conservative. You know, constantly just little 2 yard dump passes and handing it off to Braden Bennett for maybe 2 to 3 yards. They're just, and then on defense they're just you know constantly letting UTSA get 4 or 5 yards of play and just dink and doink down the field. And UTSA is perfectly content with just getting field goals in the second half because they're running away with it. Um, what,
And
I don't know.
McCown has not been great for UTSA this year. And frankly, in this one today, he looks like a all conference level quarterback.
Yep. Well, he
I
just
mean,
threw a pick.
well, I take that back. But by and large, I mean, up until that point, he was 21 of 27 for 232 and a score, and was also running for first downs. I, I don't. I think they're in for some dark times in Conway. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but like,
Oh, 100%. I agree with you. Now we're running trick plays. Coastal is. They have negative. Let's see. Let's wait for the number. As a play. So they lined up Tanner Hudson as a receiver
yeah,
and tried to do an end around pass play.
with him as the person throwing it, coming in motion.
Correct. Correct. He came in motion. The running back Bennett was the quarterback, and he pitched it off to him. It got blown up. He lost like 10 yards. So they now have negative 12 total yards in the third quarter. So that's pristine. Go Coastal. Um, can we
I think I
please
think
talk about
best
something else?
I think best case scenario for Coastal moving forward is the Beck thing flames out next year spectacularly, because that seems
Of course.
we seem like we are on a not quite a Will Hall trajectory, but we are on clearly the downslope here of the Beck era. So I think best case scenario for Coastal is he flames out next year. You know he's not the coach moving forward. They fire him, and then you get like a John Summerall taking over for Chip Lindsey at Troy level handoff. Now, obviously, that would require you to nail this next hire after Beck, but next season, I feel so bad for them. That next season just feels like so DOA, and I could be totally wrong on that. They could get somebody in the portal that blows us away heading into next year, but like this like Hudson, Vasco, Kim, whatever this was this year, there's nothing to build off of. The offense is basically handed
Zero.
to Braden Bennett and have him work miracles.
Yep.
So, all right. Yeah, so at this point, Coastal just threw for a 1 yard pass on 3rd and 16, I believe. So that kind of shows where they're at.
Sick.
But yeah, UTSA currently leads 27-0 in the third quarter. All right. So let's break into games for this upcoming week. So the first one we have is taking place 9 p.m. ESPN, December 26th, Thursday. What happened?
4th and 20, they went for a fake punt and it was intercepted. I don't.
You can't write this stuff.
What's happening? What is happening? Anyways,
this feels like a 10-year-old flipped on NCAA football and just went to like the special playbook and was just like, what can I run?
Let me see what this button does.
Yeah. What are the competitive Madden players used to call it? I'm labbing. I'm in the lab. Like,
yeah.
that feels like what they're doing. All right. So again, 9:00 ESPN Eastern Time, December 26th, this Thursday. Arkansas State is traveling to Mobile in the 68 Ventures Bowl to take on Bowling Green. Bowling Green is a 7.5-point favorite. Over under is 52.5. I'm gonna go over here, 52.5. I think Jalen Rayner can put some points up. I picked Bowling Green in a game previously earlier this year, and they upset me. So I think that is always on the table. But on the flip side, they have one of the best tight ends in the country, if not the best, in Harold Fannin Jr., who currently has 1,300 yards on 10 catches and 9 touchdowns. So I think there will be some points scored. The weather is going to be nice. And frankly, Arkansas State is not really known as a defensive-minded team. So I will take the over.
I'll take the over as well. The key for Arkansas State is going to be, can they slow down Fannin Jr.? I mean, a tight end that is averaging 14 yards a catch is just insane. So can they kind of keep him in check? Is going to be a big question for me. But yeah, no, both of these teams are very capable of putting up points. So I'll take the over in this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's talk, the draft stuff goes every which way, but there's talk of him in that Colston, Loveland, Tyler Warren tier of tight ends, because he is a very good vertical threat. So
I could easily see Fannin being a 3rd round pick.
Oh, easily. Yeah. I mean, depending on what he runs at the combine and all that good stuff, like 40 times shuttle, like all of that. Yeah. He should definitely be in talks for that. All right. So what was your pick? You got the over, Bowling Green?
I'm gonna take the over.
Okay. All right. Saturday at 2:15 Eastern on ESPN. Matt, we've got your Louisiana Raging Cajuns taking on TCU in the Isleta, New Mexico Bowl in Albuquerque. TCU is a 13-point favorite. Over unders 57.5. I'm going to ask you one simple question, and this is going to impact my entire pick. Is Ben Wooldridge playing, or is he not playing?
So, as far as we know, we have not received official word on this yet. But he is trending towards playing.
Okay.
He is. That is. I know that is not much of an answer, unfortunately. But that is the best that I can give you at this given time. Is because look, it was a clean break of his hand of his collarbone, which is typically a 4 to 6 week recovery. Um, this week is week 6, so um, I think it's all going to come down to how he feels, um, how much he's been able to practice, you know, those kinds of things. But look, Ben's determined. He's a tough competitor, and this is going to be his last game of college football ever. So I would be very shocked if he doesn't play on Saturday. So that's what I can tell you.
Okay, so where do you sit on this? 13's a lot of points. My
13's
big
a lot.
my big holdup is if Wooldridge gets hit or someone falls on him one time, it's the third string quarterback experience again. And from what I saw in the Sun Belt title game, I want absolutely nothing to do with that. So, uh, how like again, this will affect like how confident I feel either way. Are you taking where are you at with the pick here? Because
I'm
I'll make
taking
mine
I'm,
in a
I'm
second.
taking I'm taking Cajuns plus 13.
Okay.
I think that's really high. Look, TCU's been impressive, but their best receiver, who by the way, funny enough, is a Lafayette product,
Hmm.
in Jack Besh, he's banged up too. So what kind of offense are they able to put together? I think this stays relatively low scoring, and I'll take the Cajuns plus 13.
I was about to say I thought their best receiver was Savion Williams, but maybe I was. I mean, statistically, it's probably Besh, but I think as far as uh like what he could possibly do at the next level, I think Savion Williams is higher on that. But what I don't know is if he's like opted out or whatever. Uh I'm just gonna take the under. I'm gonna go under 57 and a half. One of these teams will fail to show up offensively, I think. Which one it is, don't really know. But again, the fact that Wooldridge could fall on his collarbone the wrong way one time and we don't see him again. And so
Yep.
I'm gonna hedge against that and take the under of 57 and a half.
TCU has announced that they are wearing their Blood Frogs uniform, the black one with the red number, and it's got the horned frog collar.
Yeah.
So that means the Cajuns will be in white.
Well, it's always good when your primary colors are purple and black to wear the same colors as the team you're playing. That's what I always say.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's smart.
That's very smart. I wish, the next time Georgia Southern plays Sam Houston, I hope they wear an all orange alternate for some reason.
Yeah,
That
some
doesn't make
kind
any
of
sense.
throwback to something. It's National Georgia Peach Weekend, so let's wear orange.
Yeah, we're wearing our peach uniforms. Yeah. I That's so stupid, dude. They have like this would have been a cool color matchup and they're like, what if we wore black and red against the team that's already black and red? Smart. I love that. All right, Friday, the last game on the docket, because again, Marshall will not be competing in bowl season this year, for a variety of reasons. January 3rd at 4 o'clock on ESPN, we've got the Serve Pro First Responder Bowl. Texas State is taking on North Texas in Dallas. Boy, is this a Texas bowl or what? At Gerald Ford Stadium. Texas State is a 13.5 point favorite, over under 63.5. Um,
I'm taking
I
Texas
think I'm
State.
gonna I think I'm gonna hedge and take North Texas. And Ismail Mahdi has transferred, so he's no longer with the Bobcats. And he is at Missouri, I
Yeah.
think I saw. Uh, and he was like one of their biggest weapons. Um, Frankly, that Texas State does that thing where they fade at the end of the year every year. So I'm just taking North Texas plus 13.5. That's a lot of points. And frankly, I didn't pick Texas State to go to the college football playoff, so I don't really have any feelings particularly towards them.
Look, I'll raise you a reason why I'm going to pick Texas State. They may not have Ishmael Mahdi, but North Texas won't have Chandler Morris either, who is
Okay.
committed to Virginia. Um, so North Texas will be playing a backup quarterback in this one. So I think Jordan McLeod does enough. I'm going to take Texas State minus 13.5.
I'll change my pick. I'll do the under on this one, 63.5.
Yeah,
I
that's a fair pick.
I can't trust Texas State to cover anything. Like you truly do not know what you're getting on a weekly basis from them. Didn't they lose to Georgia State at the end of the season? They did, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
52
can't.
to 44.
I don't know that they're 2 touchdowns better than anybody in the country at this point, honestly. And I hate to say that, but that's just kind of where I'm at with it, given what we've seen out of them.
It's fair.
All right, well that wraps up bowl season. We'll obviously be back to talk over all of the rest of these 3 games as we close out here and kind of sign off for the year, basically. But yeah, thanks everybody that have joined us. We'll be back again next week with sort of a wrap up and post mortem for the season, I guess. Obviously, always you can follow us on X at Warm Weather Fans, youtube.com/at Warm Weather Fans. Email us. All of the information is down here, warmweatherfans@gmail.com. Matt, let everybody know where they can find you before we sign off here today.
You can find me on social media at Miguez Matt. Quick score update: Tanner Hudson just launched a 50-yard touchdown pass to Bryson Graves. Coastal is finally on the board, 27-7 here as they open the fourth quarter.
What were they doing? What were they doing the whole time? I don't understand. I
They
truly
said
don't get it.
Fourth quarter, we're down 4 scores. Yeah, let's take a shot now. Okay.
It's like the line from The Water Boy. Last game of the season, Brent. Nothing held back.
Can't hold anything back now.
Can't hold anything back now.
We're
down 4 scores. All right.
Such a great movie, by the way. We could have an entire episode where I just sit here and quote Waterboy lines.
Well, maybe that'll be one of the things we do over the summer is we do like a football cinema series where we go back and look at like football themed films and talk about her.
No, Colonel Sanders, you're wrong. Mama's right.
Alligators are mad because I got all them teeth, but no toothbrush.
No toothbrush.
All right. You can find me on X at Watch the Stone. Again, we will be back next week to wrap the whole season up, put a bow on it, give it to you for a late Christmas present. This has been another edition of Warm Weather Fans.